Herzlich willkommen.
Welcome, everyone. I'm really happy that it's so crowded here. Good morning. Do we still say good morning? Depends on how your Republika has gone so far. I will say good morning. Mr. Lauterbach, thank you for taking the time. I know you're very busy, and we're really, really happy that you've made it.
Ich habe mich ein bisschen in der Community umgehört.
I asked the community a little bit. There's so many different questions, very, very small questions and very, very big topics as well. It's not as central, social media, as it used to be. But you're still active on Twitter, right? Yes. This year and also in the future. I don't want to leave these channels to the right-wing people and the fake news producers. There's still really good, responsible people there, and I don't want to. Don't want to leave these parties. Okay, I have to say, there's something around how it should work for them, but there's many community questions about cannabis, but I have to disappoint you. I don't want to talk about this for 30 minutes. It's a really, we have many important topics, but still, cannabis legalization is one of the few topics where the Traffic Light Coalition has actually agreed to. Well, there's so many we could actually mention. Can you just explain to us what kind of additions will there be? What kind of corrections will there be? Now, there might be additions, but in my opinion, cannabis consumption has actually been part of German society for a while, and we have to sort of allow consumption by adults, but there's still a problem with protecting minors who shouldn't be sort of using cannabis. And what we're trying to do is people who are able to make the decision to be able to get a lot of cannabis, but without having to sort of build up a huge market. And we want to bring this out of this taboo zone, because we sort of pretended that this problem wasn't happening with kids and teens, and where we really criminalized people who we shouldn't have criminalized if we compare to alcohol or other drugs. Then this is really something that for adults, we really need to accept it the same way as these other drugs. There's a couple of topics where we're thinking, why hasn't it been before? Why did it take so long? Mr. Lauterbach, when will paragraph 218 be nixed? Paragraph 218, for those that don't know, is the German paragraph that means that abortions are actually forbidden, but if you do them within a certain time frame, then you won't be prosecuted for them. Now, we are actually currently discussing this very, very much. One thing that doesn't work, that we can't do, is that even though it is currently legal and in theory the law states that you're allowed to do an abortion, it's still very, very difficult for women to actually access this abortion. And this is something that can't be the case. So this debate we're currently having. But this debate, when I was 10 years old, the Stern cover picture existed. So we've been having this debate for 50 years. Shouldn't we stop it at one point? Well, there's some things that have changed. Laws have changed. The way these laws are applied have changed. It was a part of a guideline that was published. It was that basically said that it is very, very difficult to even justify why abortion is illegal today. There's many arguments to nix the sort of illegality of abortion. We need to debate this. We need to analyze this. But actually, this is a Bundestag task. This isn't something that the government can do. These are really central questions that we need to decide. The worst thing we could do is to look into this, to sort of have a party political discussion on these questions. To think of how different parties are thinking about this. What we don't need is party politics. What we need is actually an ethical discussion in the Bundestag, where then members of parliament can decide based on their ethics, based on their conscience. It can't become a part of sort of party politics where parties try to use this decision to get voters. For transparency, I say that for 30 years I have been insured privately. As a freelancer, I've made this decision back then. I think it has changed, where I have seen sort of, where I've experienced that I walked past a walking room, a sitting room of a doctor's with lots of people waiting, because I'm privately insured, I was sort of put up front. And I don't want this. So when does this happen? When does this two-tier model of medicine stop? So I have been trying to get a really common insurance policy going for years and years. I studied under John Rawls in the US, who really emphasized that people need to have the same opportunities when it comes to education, when it comes to health. It can't be that that the quality offered depends on where you're coming from, in both education and in health. In health, of course, what needs to decide this, the deciding factor needs to be the medical situation. It can't depend on whether you're from a educated household, whether you have a lot of money. That's why I believe that having public insurance, similar to the National Health Service, is something that we need. And this idea of justice that we have is really being violated every time that people experience something like you have experienced. And this is a fight of lobbyists against a system that people really want, that our people really want. I believe you've mentioned lobbyists that really have a lot of money, and this is contrary to other interest groups. What about sort of community nursing, money for caring for someone? We can't only reduce sort of hospitals if other systems don't start working. Can you say something about money for caring, community caring, these kind of kiosks? Are these still happening? There's many topics now. First of all, I want to talk about lobbyism first. People say that I am not as inviting towards lobbyists, which I believe is also the reason in the past, we've actually let lobbyists left too much room for lobbyism. Health is actually a very, very lobbied part. There's a lot of lobbyism there. If we're looking into health, into insurance, then the market is roughly 450 billion euros. It's roughly the same size as the entire household of the government. That includes family, that includes household, that includes defense. It's the same size as the health market. So whenever we're talking about, it's always about billions. And in the past, lobby groups have also often sort of had this strategy that they want to, that if they can't avoid these laws, then they will make sure that these laws won't actually be as effective as they might be. There's lots of laws that have been enacted in recent years. And then in the last minute, lobbyists were able to really diffuse this bomb. The law is basically the bomb. And I've looked into sort of a lot of different areas. I've tried to pull in a lot of people who from the outside had worked against this. So what we now don't want anymore is to have these laws really weakened, really castrated by lobbyists. You can like or not like laws, but if they are coming, then they should be efficient. They should be effective. Are you planning, or what's your view on ending homeopathy and chiropractor care in Germany? I have a very clear position there. And this is, in many things, really, we're running out of time. Climate change, in renewable energy, the health system. The path we're on, we can only sort of walk through it if we have light. And the only light we can really trust is science. And if in one of these really, really important areas so that people believe us, and we're saying homeopathy is paid by sort of national insurance, then we're actually dissing science. We're actually not trusting science, and I don't think we should do that. I think I forgot to say this at the end. We will open the microphones for the last 10-15 minutes, and I'm really excited when people like you ask questions, because, to be honest, I forget quite a lot of things. So a while ago, you mentioned that you're really an AI nerd. And I was warned that I need to sort of put the brakes on when it becomes too technical. Skilled workers, we are missing skilled workers. How are we managing to sort of make these kind of care jobs attractive? People have burnout. Maybe it's not always about the money. They might be looking for a new job. How can we get better structures within these care jobs? This is a really important point, and we're currently working on a law, a care competency law. In Germany, we have a very special situation that that people who have these care jobs, really nurses, for instance, really have been educated very well. But in actuality, they can only do a very small part of the work without being sort of supervised by the doctor. We traditionally have a really strict hierarchy between doctors and nurses and other care workers. And with this new law, many nurses could do a lot more. They could, for instance, write some prescriptions. They could adapt insulin doses. If you have an additional certification without necessarily needing a doctor to supervise you. And I think this is something that we really need very urgently, because currently we have this situation that care workers and nurses from the outside will tell them, don't go to Scandinavia, don't go to England, don't go to the US, come to Germany. we're really advertising on the international market of nurses. There's countries that have a lot of different nurses that are being educated currently than these countries need, because they have a very young populations. We're not actually taking something from countries that would need them themselves. For doctors, we are actually taking doctors away from other countries who would need them themselves. And I think this is a very unethical business. But in nursing and in care, in actuality, there's there's countries that are really educating a lot, and these are on the market, and we need to win them. And if you come to Germany, then you're paid worse. You may do fewer things. You need to show that you speak the pretty difficult German language. We don't have spots in nursery for your kids, but please, still come. And this will surprise everyone. This strategy has not worked. Why? Because obviously these nurses aren't stupid. And we need to become honest. We need to pay better. We need to acknowledge their competency. We need to provide nursery spots. And we need to also move away from everyone needs to show that they already speak the language before even coming, but instead that they can learn German on the spot, on the job. And with these four things of having assuming competency, the language not needing to be there, having enough nursery spots, and better pay, we're becoming a lot more attractive for people who are already in Germany and also for people to attract. If we go along this way and we go along this path, then people will stay in nursing in Germany, and this is why we have this new law that will come in the next couple of weeks.
You said that strategies in many cases you named didn't work. In the last years, we realized that there's things happening we're not prepared for. Of course, I'm talking about the COVID situation, and it's still being worked on. And we have to look at the mistakes we made. But the big question is, it's not the last pandemic we had. Maybe we'll have even bigger catastrophes at some point. How can we make sure to be better prepared next time? Well, that leads me to a really important thing. I've been to Geneva at the World Health Summit, and there's a contract being made, a pandemic contract that all 169 countries are signing. Well, that people should sign it, let's say so. It's all about warmer countries should be supported, poorer countries should be supported, and to be able to do something, and that the rich North supports those countries, and also guarantee that in case a pandemic is happening, that it can't be. It's not like being prepared for this, but if it comes to this, we're giving you fast vaccinations and safety material, and we worked on this for 2 years to make sure the world is better prepared for future pandemics. That it will come for 100%, and also the climate change. I mean, the number of pandemics will rise. So we can't really tell when this is happening, but there's a reservoir of many viruses that hasn't transferred to humans, but animals and humans and everything else around it is changing, their habitat. And sometimes they might change that they can be transferred to humans. So the pandemic, pandemics will happen again. And we discussed for 2 days, but this treaty has failed again. This is extremely depressing because if we look at the case, okay, we had a pandemic, we were not really well prepared, things happened uncoordinated, and we didn't react properly, and it wasn't really well distributed that people could take care of it. And if we have if we try to start such a treaty and to start up such a treaty, this is a catastrophe, and I really hope the days we still have, like this meeting is still happening, and I'm also discussing with Annalena Baerbock, and I really hope that we at least get some kind of time frame until when this treaty is ready. So if we go outside again, if we part again and we don't have a plan how things are happening in the future, during the next pandemic we're even worse prepared, and on a technical basis we're not well off. And if we have like 10 to 15 people against vaccinations and even like crazy people, we found it's even getting more difficult that we can handle a pandemic, and that's not supposed to happen. Well, welcome to our call. Hope dies at last. Well, prevention, I talked about it. The boomer claw. What's wrong with us? No. The boomer claw. I didn't know where I picked it up, but I don't know if it's from you. My generation was pretty birth strange, and the boomers need medical care, but care persons in the boomer area and doctors are dying. The number of sick boomers has to be supported, but it's nearly impossible at the moment. So this is, in a nutshell, the boomer claw, and how can we manage this? Something that has been a big mistake. I don't want to say that, okay, we've already known that. No. We didn't educate enough people in medicine. Well, you need a spot at university. It's 200,000 euros. It's too expensive for us. We don't invest it. But the numerus clausus is also a problem. But this is not the thing in this case. We can also have different systems to get in. But the number of university spots for medicinal things is not high enough. It's usually a thing of the federal states. But we say it's much too expensive, so we should rather take the doctor from Namibia or from Syria. So these countries have paid, and we take the doctor. And this is completely unethical because we steal the poor countries of this country, of the world, the doctors. We have many doctors in the system, and many, especially in operative areas, like where people take care of patients, and many of them have a foreign background. But over the years, we took the doctors from the outside and from other countries, and situations that have been precarious anyway have gotten worse. And this is completely unethical. We can't do that. We need like 5,000 more spots at universities for doctors, so we can also like loosen the numerus clausus.
Okay, now I'll give you 5 minutes for being an AI nerd, because how can we ensure nursing and care? And I think this is really related to digitization to AI, maybe even robotics. How can we make that possible, and as much as possible not within the next 10 years, not that it's only active in 10 years. Now, the disappointing news for you is that AI will have a really big role within medicine, but in care and in nursing, the role will be the smallest. I think the this care robot is really more of an image. It's not really something that happens. A lot of care tasks cannot be done by a robot, and really only people who have not done nursing, who have not done this kind of care work in the past, are really those that are saying, well, let's have robots do the nursing. Maybe in data processing, yes, in data processing there are really good AI systems. In some of them, from patient talking, AI is actually able to distill all the information and create all of the documentation itself. When talking between the doctor and the patient, the documentation can already be built up directly through just talking. And this is indeed making work a lot easier. Maybe the doctor and nurse might still need to take a look at the final report, but this is a lot. This will make their work a lot less difficult. And there's German startups that are really, really good there, where we have a big German startup scene. But actually, most of the nursing, most of the care work is still being done by people and will need to be done by people. But we have up to 30% of the time of the nursing time is actually being spent on documentation, and this 30% AI is actually able to just get rid of. And this is indeed very good, because it will allow us to save this time and to utilize it for nursing and care. Now, I was prepared for a lot more work, for a lot more technology when you warned me. So I really want to open the presentation for you, because I saw that there were so many different questions, and maybe I won't be able to ask that many questions. So let's open the questions. Who has the microphone? Oh, there's someone. Can you just go to the first row, and then we'll take a look. And then maybe to the second row. Hi, Mr. Lauterbach. One question for you. You said we will have an additional pandemic with 100%, for sure. When are we getting prevention for nurseries and for schools? Yeah, that's a really good question. This is maybe HVAC, this kind of filter or supervision to make sure that there's enough nurses there, and also maybe educators there, so that people who are sick don't have to go to work. All of these things are really important and difficult, but preventing a pandemic is only possible if you know what kind of pandemic is coming. You can't really prevent and prepare for any kind of pandemic. What is really important is we actually officially left the pandemic, but there's actually 500,000 people who are living with long COVID. And it's really important for us to really make sure these people with long COVID, we're not leaving them behind, and we're taking care of them. And I think this is really something that makes it really difficult. And this is something that is difficult for me to see. With those 150 million we have actually managed to devote some of that money to long COVID research. But even in Europe, there's not a lot of research on long COVID. So now we have a situation where the largest losers of the pandemic, those that are still alive, of course, those that didn't die, the long COVID sufferers which also includes kids, by the way. And there we really have a responsibility. And a lot of those are nurses, are teachers, that many women in these care areas have gotten COVID in their job and have developed long COVID as a result of that. And we can't leave them behind. What about mental health? A couple of weeks ago, there was a pact for suicide prevention. What we need a lot more is therapy, and especially therapy that is approved for national insurance. I know this is a bigger problem with sort of this kind of insurance approved, but especially in therapy, it is really, really difficult. And we have a lot of people who aren't able to find help, and therefore only therefore are going to bridges and really jumping from bridges. Now, first of all, I'm not being paid for believing, I'm being paid for doing stuff. And to be honest, okay, I shouldn't sort of criticize other people. Now, during my tenure, we have a new law that is about building up additional therapy spots. Especially, you can get insurance if you need people, if you are especially taking care of people within this kind of crisis situation, if you have people with drug experience, if you try to sort of offer therapy for people with socioeconomic problems, for people with especially severe mental health problems. Currently, the people that need therapy the most, they're not getting therapy. And we're not making that possible by just asking and begging therapists to take these patients on. So what we're doing now is to add additional therapists that are, and we're asking therapists to sort of allow them to get registered as a therapist that will be paid by the by national insurance, so that if you're willing to take on these really crisis patients, then you can even open a therapy, just like a therapy outlet, even in areas where, according to sort of the law, there's actually enough, there's already enough therapists. In addition, for the first time, we're actually planning for how much demand our kids and children, do kids and children need for this kind of therapy. And I think this is really a scandal that we didn't do that before, that we didn't look at kids and children in particular before. And we have sort of looked into this, and we have built up a system where we discussed with different societies where therapists are active. So I can say that we are indeed improving this. The law is already in cabinet, and I can say that we are improving this situation. There's a question over there and a question over there. Sometimes I'm wondering if we shouldn't open these formats from the beginning. Because I think I am really proud. Okay, the longer I talk, the less time you guys have. My name is Diana. I work at a nursing home, and we're always asking for this kind of generalist education. What we're seeing in the last couple of years is that people who are doing this kind of education, who are doing this apprenticeship, are not able to follow up. Schools aren't able to follow up. Currently, there's like 48% of people are quitting their jobs, and everyone who we are educating, we are educating in our nursing home, they really then really like the hospital, and they are going to hospitals then, and this is getting worse and worse. Yes, there's two laws we're currently building up. One is this nursing competency law, and then the other one is the nursing assistance law, because we don't only need people who have done an education in nursing, but we also need assistants. And we can't sort of play the educated against the assistants against each other, because we think there are really important tasks that a lot of these assistants are doing. But in terms of this generalized education that we're now doing, because much of this content can't be educated to people. People can't grasp it within this time frame with this small number of educators that we have. So we need to think of where some of the stuff that we're doing can become more practical, because a lot of that about sort of the quitting and stuff like that is really about a lot of the theory that is being taught, and the theory isn't as relevant. A lot of this isn't as relevant for actually becoming a nurse, for actually doing the nursing, but instead this kind of practical skills that we need to introduce more into these apprenticeships. We need to build up a second apprenticeship that is for sort of nursing assistants. Who's next? How do you decide? Someone with headphones, please.
Hi, ich bin Tay. Ich bin mit meiner Schulklasse, also mit meinem Kurs hier.
Hi, I'm Tay. I'm here with my course from school. And I wanted to ask, sort of, how are you planning on financing more spots for medical studies, for med school? And how are you planning on sort of dealing with a lot of people quitting sort of medicine? Now, compared to other studies, quitting medicine, there isn't as much of a high number. What the proposal that I have made, because we need more spots, is that the central government and a number of and a cluster of these kind of federal counties, the Länder, that they come together to finance these kind of medical school spots, and that we change some of the numerous clauses and instead sort of include more of social work, other types of work that people have done, that they have demonstrated their commitment to social work, to introduce more spots. Including both the federal Länder and also the insurance providers. And what we're seeing is that in terms of the quality that we want, we're missing roughly 50,000 doctors to sort of care for all of the baby boomers. And this is a really, really difficult thing. I have made some suggestions. We're currently in the parliamentarian process. I'm hoping we'll manage to do that. I think this would be a really, really responsible thing. I think it is great that we have a lot of people who are willing to do med school, who are willing to become doctors, who want to do research. We have a lot of people who want to do that, but we don't have the spots for them to study it.
Well, it's difficult. Maybe the person with the orange lanyard, the standing person. Okay. I have one question. When you talked about care, you talked about professional care. When I look at the statistics, there's over 84% are cared for like this. Does it also belong to the topic of care? Do we have any rights, or just do we have to? Is care walking on the quicksand of subsidiarity? Does it have a future? Wouldn't be like family care? Wouldn't it be a really important topic when it comes to care? So 2 things about this. I think it's really important that the next of kin help each other. Belongs to the social security. For example, if you prepare for your age when it comes to money, for example, if next of kin care for others, the state should pay for some of it, and if relatives are taking care of the care, the least we can do is to use tax money for this, if we want to support them sufficiently, especially when it comes to pensions. We don't want to have people care for their elderly, and it's not good to make them suffer in the end when they are old. The second thing is we're working on the Care Competence Act, and there's one thing we're doing a lot better, in my opinion. It's a stimulant care. It's a care that's where people who need care are in a nursing home. It's more like some kind of shared living where relatives can take care for their people, and when they can't do that 24/7, for example, if they have like work or something else, then a care service can do that, and this can be used until the highest care grade, until their last days of their life. They can live in their own flat, and only that care can deduct it with professionals that relatives can't do. This is something people wish for, because it's if I'm caring relative, what happens when I can't do it? What happens when I'm sick, when I'm on holidays? What happens when the need for care is higher than I can meet the demand? So we need to support care, and we have to replace care, and care is increasing, and in these spots it can be paid by the care insurance, and I think this is a good system. If you will, this is third way compared to care at home and the care in a nursing home. And the stimulant care, for example, in Baden-Württemberg, the Care Competence Act we have, this is caring relatives want this as a security option. So we can't have any more questions. I know your calendar is pretty full already. I know we haven't talked about so many topics, but we got an idea how many topics there are in your area. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for taking the time to be here at Republica. Well, this is Karl Lauterbach, the German health minister.